This is Ankita.
And this is Nalini.
And you are tuned in to Prickly Pears, the podcast where we celebrate uninhibited brown women and their prickly points of view. This is the season 2 wrap, the episode where we look back on the season gone by and talk about everything we've learned through the journey and maybe a sneak peek into what's next. So I'm going to start with this. Nalini, this season's topic was something that you are extremely passionate about. And now that we are done, is it everything that you hoped it would be?
I think it was, and more. Like it was what I hoped it would be. And every time someone said, yes, I agree with Nalini, I'm Team Nalini, I believe in purpose, that's where my like ticker would go hit that, upper limit and that bell in my mind. But definitely, I think I learned so much in this season. Like I thought I've read so many books. I've like done a bit of research on all of these different religions. Like in the beginning, we talked about how different religious beliefs talk about
Judaism.
purpose and Judaism and Hinduism and Islam. Like everyone talks about purpose in a different way. And in today's world, where so many people are free thinkers in their life, like how do we deal with these heavy topics without making it religious? Like that was my aim from this season, and I think we got some brilliant guests that really had that level of mental clarity, intellectual, and the articulation of their purpose, like they had it in their minds, so clear. Many of them, some of them agreed with you, Ankita, which we can talk about, like where it doesn't have to be a single purpose or a solo purpose to live life. But um I think like we had so many learnings, which we will get into this season. What about you? What do you think?
I have to first say that I'm a little distracted by your outfit for the day. I know, I know it's probably in the middle of the afternoon, but did you just roll out of bed? Like, I've never seen you come in casuals for a
Yeah, it's
recording.
I mean, I think it's because it's a Sunday, but also it's a very put together look with my t-shirt coat that is meant to be on point for our recording. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, by changing nothing, nothing changes. And I let that sink in if it was deep enough for many people, because I think the whole journey of purpose and the journey of self actualization that everyone is on, like the one key learning that I had from all these episodes and talking to our guests, and also like doing simultaneous reading and learning about the topic, was that I think it is so important for us to keep doing the work to make the changes needed internally within ourselves, and like to make a difference to our own life and to others or to everything. Like, so basically, change is something like that you need to have a prickly point of view on. And this is mine for the day, but enough about my outfit, Ankita. Maybe tell me a bit about like your favorite part of the season or your favorite episode. Like, do you want to share something around that?
Yes, I'm gonna go on a mini rant here. Um, well, not in the thing that I'm ranting, but like it's gonna be a slightly long monologue. So, firstly, I think the thing that stuck out for me when you said that you are even more convinced that we should have a purpose is that of confirmation bias. Because I think we started on a spectrum somewhere unsure. You've gotten more towards saying, yes, we should have a purpose. And I've happily traveled on the other opposite end of the spectrum where I'm like, the people on this conversation probably think, well, I think half our guests were very clear about their purpose and knew what they wanted, and the other half had no clue. Um, I think they were talking about purpose as a word, but in my head, I was like, that could be changed. Like, we know, for example, and I'm a staunch headspace user. And the thing they keep saying again and again is that change is the only constant. Obviously, we hear it in a different set of ways, but they never talk about purpose, right? So I think You can go through a self actualization journey and knowing very clearly what defines you as a person, what you like, what you don't like, what things you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing. But I don't, and maybe it's just my beef with the word purpose. I don't know how all of it correlates to things then coming together to coalesce and say, this is my purpose, even if not throughout my life, but at this singular point of time. So that's my little monologue on the confirmation bias. But to your question, is there one moment that stood out? I'm going to share with our listeners a little thing that they may not know. At the start of this season, so I think we have season one was my idea and a topic that I brought Nalini along with me on. Season two was Nalini's idea, and I was a big naysayer. I was just like, I don't even know why we're doing this season on purpose. And that was my stance. So there was obviously Team Ankita, which didn't think there was a discussion necessary on the topic. And every 2 or 3 episodes, I'd go back to Nalini and be like, okay, can we wrap up now? Have we had enough guests? And Nalini would be like, no, I just want to do two more. And I'd be like, okay, let's do two more and let's see if I learned something different. I clearly recall at one of the many absolutely smashing parties you throw at your apartment, there was one evening in the setting sun where we started a conversation on purpose. And we had more than 10 people sitting in your living room discussing purpose for an hour and a half, if not more. And it was one of the most engaging dinner conversations I've had in a very long time. And maybe I'm biased because it was about our podcast season, but I think that really changed my mind. And I wanted to talk more about purpose because I realized that irrespective of where you sit, on whether you're a staunch believer or you're on the fence or you're an absolute naysayer, it is a word that has creeped into people's life. And I think people are talking about it. And if we can help in the conversation, then why not?
And I mean, if I had to say my favorite bits, I know you didn't ask me the question, but like if I had to say my favorite bits, it's also around all the conversations that we started, like within episodes and outside it. Like I might have mentioned to you, like, you know, in my new job, like when I go at events and sometimes like I meet total strangers that would have probably just seen my LinkedIn profile or what's out there, and we strike up a conversation. And like at one point there were two British men, really lovely people, who came up to me. I'm meeting them for the first time, and they're like partners of the company that I work in. And they come to me, and the first thing they say to me is that, I saw that you're recording a podcast about purpose. Like maybe they didn't even know the full, like what the entire pod is about, but the fact that like they saw purpose and suddenly something lit up in their minds that they had so much to share about. And it didn't, like, they were obviously not brown women, our target audience, but it, like, it struck so many chords with them. And like both of them, they work with like their clients are the NHS and like these kind of companies, and they started talking deeply for the next 20 minutes about, like, we forgot about our business meeting, and that's what they were talking about. And like this is just one of the many examples that, like, all these side conversations that I've had throughout this season, it like has also sent me on a journey of reading more about this, which I will share hopefully. But before sharing a bit of like on quotes that I've read along the way, I want to give you a stat which I didn't share with you before. uh, with all the guests that we asked, have they found their purpose, or like what do they think of purpose, 66% of them said that they believe in purpose and they have found it. Um, there were around, like, basically one person that was on the fence, and then a couple that said no, that they don't think that this is the exact, like, this is not something that they are after in life. Like, it's an evolving thing and it changes. But definitely one thing that I changed my mind on from shooting our initial episode to after interviewing all these guests and like parallel purposeful reading is that I was a staunch believer that a person comes to this world with just one thing that they are meant to do, like that one main thing. Like there can be things around how they live their lives and etc. But there's that one thing like that you need to fulfill that purpose, and after that you're free to do whatever else. Right? You're here for a reason, and there's that one reason. After this, after talking to so many people about this, I've definitely changed my mind on purpose being a more evolving thing. And at one point, I think what Krati said on our one of our episodes about how she thinks that at one point in time you have one purpose, but then the next day or the few months later it's a different thing that you're going after, and that adds value and meaning and purpose to your life at that point. So that's your purpose at that point. I think I'm more a believer of that, of evolving purpose now than I was initially. But definitely, like the more the merrier, right? Like I thought there has to be one purpose. Now I think that there could be many, which gives me a more positive, future looking outlook towards my own life.
I'll give you another stat now that you're sharing stats. But 100% of our guests, if you were to analyze their purpose in some form or the other, it can be summarized in two words: helping others. It, if I recall, like everyone's purpose, it manifested in different ways. So there are different ways eventually, but I think if that, and I do think that could, if that's the purpose of every single person living on earth, isn't that wonderful? But I don't know if that is. But
Yeah.
like that was my big observation.
And I mean, to that I have, because I had like the quotes that I kept noting through the season. Brené Brown, which a lot of women like us follow today, and even Mother Teresa, like these two women have, like forever, their stance on something like a purpose is that it is all about helping people. It's about being of service, like purpose essentially in their mind. And even Swami Vivekanand, in all his Vedanta philosophy, he says your purpose is to be of service to others. So like I think a lot of these thinkers say what you've also definitely analyzed out of our, and you have statistics, which is even better. But something that Brené Brown says, is connection is why we are all here. We are hardwired to connect with others. It's what gives life purpose and meaning. Basically the way, and the way to connect with others is either to be of help to them or to just have empathy with each other. I think that's something that a lot of people agree on. So I totally agree, and I used to think that that's just my purpose in life. So that I think in in our first conversation I said that to help others, like everything I do is to help others, and I think that's my purpose. But clearly that's an overarching theme, and you can definitely get more nuanced in what way or shape can you help the world or people around you. But even, yeah, I mean, I agree, and I like that stat. I think like it agrees with my my. It goes for more confirmation bias.
I don't know. I don't know if we collected guests in a way that they would talk about purpose in a way that of having found something, because they're all achieved something in life via different means. So I think it's not a conversation that's ending here today. It'll go on, and
Yeah.
we might just still do our thing of going out on the street with a microphone and saying, "Do you have a purpose? Do you have a purpose?" And quickly sample 100 people. Um, Two things. First, I know we started the season trying to test out three hypotheses, or trying to find the answer to three questions. The first question was, do we need to have a well-defined purpose to live a happy, fulfilled life? I think you and I've talked about it for the last, I don't know, 10 odd minutes.
10
But
and 10
before,
episodes.
yes. So 10 minutes, 10 episodes. So before we get into question two and three, let's just take a minute to talk about Ikigai, the book. That, like, I was surprised you didn't share a statistic of how many of our guests actually quoted the book. And
Definitely more than 50%, like I can say. Yeah.
I know. I was surprised by how universal the book is. So I bought the book, I want to say 7, 8 years ago
Yeah.
when it was launched, and I got it. I read it. I thought it was a pretty book. It has big font. It has a lot of pictures. It's a nice coffee table book. It's really pretty. So I went and then got Huga, which is also a very similar looking book. And I was like, these two are really good coffee table books. When I have my own home and I'm dressing up the living room, these can be up there. And you can't imagine my shock when people started quoting it in an episode on purpose. And I was like, I
But to the
know.
extent, like to the extent that, I mean, Ananya actually went to Japan to see the blue zone and people that the book Ikigai talks about. And I think, like, I mean, it's amazing that a book is having this kind of an impact, right? That I think that goes on to show how same things can resonate differently with different people, right? And to me, Ankita, like, not to sound arrogant to our listeners or anything, but but this is my prickly point of view and it's my podcast, so I can say it.
Yes.
That Ikigai should not be a book where your journey on purpose ends or like concludes. Like it's where you should begin. Like this is, I think it's the alphabet, like the ABC of finding meaning in your life. Like Ikigai, I would urge our listeners, like, okay, if they haven't read it, yeah, that's a good place to start. But like beyond Ikigai, like there's just so much good work and good stuff out there about, like, whether you want to go into the Bhagavad Gita, like there's so much in there that'll make you digest the message like even more deeply for a long sustainable time, or but like to each their own, like whatever resonates with people, which reminds me that I've been getting feedback from friends like every now and then on what resonated most with people. And I think like so many people have given me so many different episodes. And if our guests are listening, like I just want to call out a few of them, that like there's a few that told me that Ananya's episode on the sabbatical, I think like that was definitely with people that are in the corporate that are listening to us. Actually, they want, some of them I want to talk to Ananya, and we're going to share her email ID because she's been very open. We With them, who reached out to us to have a chat about how can a sabbatical like help them go further in their journey of knowing more about themselves. Then there were people who reached out to me for my sister's journey on how to join the, like from going from a corporate lawyer to an armed forces personnel. Like there was definitely like a younger audience like that probably still has that option in life to do that. So definitely like there was a lot of listeners that thought that was the highest. There were a few like Hani Pamnani on being an eternal optimist. Like this is, I so many people that have given up on relationships in the past and like thought negatively about them. I think it resonated so much with women who've lost a lot and then gained, are trying to look forward into their lives and gaining a lot more. But I'll stop here, Ankita. Like, what have you been hearing in terms of feedback on
On
episodes?
very similar lines, I think I was surprised. A lot of feedback that I received were actually from men, strangely. So we
I
need
mean,
to
like
figure.
some of our last Instagram followers have also all been men. I think the last few. So somehow it's resonating. It's good.
Yeah. Um, which makes it even better for our season 3, but we'll get to that in a bit. A lot of, so there was feedback on the sense that it's an interesting conversation in the similarities that came out. So this whole finding on everyone's purpose is helping others is not my own discovery. It was collaborated by some of the people who shared feedback. And then obviously because of recency bias, Naomi's episode has received a lot of feedback. And so has, like, I love the little insights we got from Namrata's episode. I think it helps to have catchphrases, And so much so, I actually used, you mentioned Krati's episode, I used the envy test on to write a blog post, and that got great feedback because it caught on, and a lot of people were like, oh, we love the envy test. I should give her that feedback. But they love
Yeah.
having a term to connect to. And then obviously someone purchased from Wound as a result of that episode. So
Oh,
yeah, so I think it's been quite a bit. I myself have been thinking about retreats a little more now.
because of
When
Neha's.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna get on to her and be like, okay, not didn't get to Greece, may not get to the next one, but in 2025 we might just make it to one. So I think that the truth is I learned a lot through the episodes. I've got a lot of feedback, and they may not be. And the best part was not all of them were essentially related to purpose, right? You got to learn that in the blue zones people are still unhappy, and the envy test, and the fact that sabbaticals help, retreats are, they're not just a cool thing to do, they actually do help you create connections to both others and yourself. So there was a lot of gold irrespective of whether I landed on being
And that's
convinced
the
that
aim,
purpose, yeah.
right? Like that's the aim to continue to learn from other people's journeys and see representation in a, which is the whole point of Prickly Pears, to find representation so that you can find yourself in other stories in some shape or form. And if they can, and think like, if they can do it, I can do it, which is what brings me to even Aisha's, like, statistics wise, our first episode, Aisha, from going to an employee to a founder in her early 20s, someone that early on, like on the first day of her first job, realized that this is not for her. Like, being an employee is just not for her. Or like my sister's episode, Sonali,
Mhm.
on armed forces, was that she was doing this, like this whole corporate lawyer rigor for a bit, earning a lot of money, but somehow their bodies and their mind, like they were lucky people to be in tune with their bodies. And the book that I read on purpose, on North Star, like also said the exact same thing, that if you're in tune with all your senses, it will tell you like what's the right direction and the right path for you, right? So statistics wise, these two episodes have done really well, both on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. That, like, because people seem to want to know what they are meant for, and they can call it purpose, you can call it North Star, you can
Yeah.
call it like a vocation, like what's your ideal vocation in life. That, but definitely, like, if you're more in tune with one of the learnings, which I'm like, I will randomly spew out, is that if you're in tune with your mind and body, and the sabbaticals and retreats and everything helps with that, like being in tune with your inner self, to know what you really really want. And that, I'm just going to now go to like some one framework that I tried to bring up. I know we'll talk about the other one, which we started our season on, but I think the really key thing that stood out from all these stories is that if you wanted to find your purpose or your North Star, or what you're truly meant to do, or just like attain happiness, like more happiness than what you have today, it is like level one is self reflection. Like, you and all of our guests were so deeply self aware on so many different levels, and through their journeys we saw, like, some people like did it very early on in life. Some people, it took some it took a near death experience or a life threatening experience to suddenly like bring yourself to that shocking place that, yeah, no, I really need to go towards what makes me happier than what I'm doing today. Or for some, it was just deep inner reflection that made you reach there. But self reflection and exploration, like these two things, by the way, this came out in my chat with the Gemini app this morning, the Google AI app, because I was trying to have a conversation before you and I got into a
A
conversation.
plug advertisement.
I mean, I'm not their employee anymore, neither are they paying me, but I really think that it's like one of the superior AI apps there. But Gemini did push me in the direction of exploration, and what does exploration mean? And all our guests, if you think about it, like they tried different careers, or they tried different hobbies, they tried different like things, and what you and I also do in life, right? Like we try to push ourselves out of our comfort zones a little bit to just try a new thing, and try a new thing and see how you feel about it. And like that's a very good exercise in coming in tune with yourself. Like, okay, I might have never painted in life, so how do I know that painting is not for me, right? Just by, but if I
Yeah.
do it and then see like how I felt about painting, it just makes like, or I hated it, I know that it's not for me and I move on. So exploration of different things, trying, giving yourself a chance and the time to do these different things, to know what you like, is definitely like step number 2, from self reflection to exploration. But I will stop there, and I will let you go to the, I will tell you the rest of the framework in the end, if if you're curious.
I don't know. Like, I hate it when people leave with cliffhangers. And I was like, wait, your framework can't have just two steps. There has to be more.
I mean, the consulting world tells us that everything has to be in threes. So I'll tell you the third step, which was also golden circle, which we'll come to later. But self reflection, exploration, and the third is a combination of contribution and mindfulness, which goes back to service and like the serving mindset and helping others. If find a way to contribute to things bigger than yourself, like even if it is a, and this is tying back to what everyone said on the pod, right? Like in a way, whether you're a coach helping others, whether you're a lawyer in the armed forces getting justice for people, whether you're building a product or a tool that helps others, whether you're starting a podcast that in the future might help some young women. So like there are these things, like find a way to contribute. It doesn't have to be big or small, it just has to be being mindful about what, like the first two steps, being mindful about what the self reflection and exploration taught you, and then using those two things, find a way to meaningfully contribute to two people, five people, 10 people, like it doesn't matter, but to meaningfully contribute to something bigger than yourself. So that is that's one framework which is similar, I would say, to the golden circle. But since it didn't, do you have something to say about it? Because I was really passionate about it in the beginning, but then we didn't really.
Yeah. So our third hypothesis was if the golden circle is a thing, and I tried bringing it up in some conversations, but it really didn't fly. I think a lot of people agreed with the essence of what it was, but it, similar to the Maslow hierarchies of needs, it felt like it felt basic. So they were all much more evolved, and they needed a better framework. And I think we have now one to go by.
I mean, yeah, we have two options now. Just to go back to, if someone's listening for the first time to this episode, I'm just going to quickly go back to what the golden circle was. Starting with why, definitely, like Simon Sinek's name is like, it reminds you of why, like
Why?
why you're doing certain things, and in association with purpose. And what my other framework said, I think why would mean your core beliefs and your core like values, what you stand for, what you really truly appreciate in life, or like what you think is right, what is justice, what is fair, like everything that you stand for is your why. And when you have that why, and yeah, when you have that why, hopefully it leads you to a thing that you want to be, or a thing that you want to contribute to, or something that really like, that really would lead you to somewhere like which is a happier place. So you start with why. How, the second is how, like how do you get to where you want, like with the why that you know. And the third one being what, like what would be that core ideal life. How would your ideal life, what would your ideal life look like, what should you do to get to your ideal life, taking the above two into consideration. But I really still like the other framework better now that I say it. So this
Yes.
is the golden circle: why, how, what. That's one option. If people want to use it to find the purpose, their purpose, or they're just like lead them to a better life. Or the second one was self reflection, exploration, and contribution. So SEC.
That stands for something else, Melody, but yeah.
Maybe, who knows? Who knows what can lead you to your purpose, right? Like, give me
Yes,
time
being
to
called on by the SEC too.
SEC. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not in the US. We don't.
Yeah,
But yeah, SEC framework. I can put a link in our description. But I will stop rambling now.
yeah, let's do that. And you know what? I think we've been talking about purpose for a bit. It's time to put a pin on the conversation. Before I do have to share. In the last 20, 25, 30 minutes, I find myself no longer sitting on the fence. I think I am inching towards Team Nalini because the thing is, like, the word purpose, the way it is defined is maybe the thing, but like you and I are essentially talking about the same thing, one with a label and one without a label. So,
Okay, I'm just going to
but
change your title.
so not on the fence no more. Yes.
Yes. So clearly, like 30 minutes. So it's all about the conversations, right? It's
You
all
did,
about
yeah, you did more than our guests have done in the last 8 episodes and then our opening. But with that, Nalini, do you want to share a little hint of what's coming next?
Hmm. Okay, that's I wasn't planning on it, but I think we've been itching to get started with the next season purely because I think like it's so close to our hearts and like a lot of people's hearts. It's the matter of hearts.
That's us. We've done like two very serious, comparatively serious seasons, right? And I am really looking forward because to this because I know it's going to be one with endless laughs, a little bit of controversy,
Yeah, without
but
controversy, it's not prickly pears, right? So
yes,
we better go back to controversy.
yes, okay, a lot of laughs and a lot of controversy. On that note,
And no, what
yes,
before we get out, and we will be doing some offline activity this season, hopefully. Like, and we will be this we can promise our viewers and listeners that we will be shooting in the same room the first episode of our next season, and we won't be taking as long a break as we did for the last between the last seasons. So this
yeah,
time, expect us sometime soon in your Spotify, YouTube, Instagram feeds very, very soon with our season 3. And with that, Ankita,
we are out.